So hello and welcome to my first proper Hades video. This is going to be a post-gameplay commentary, something new to the channel. If you're new to the game, this is not for you, there's going to be spoilers throughout. But if you're a seasoned veteran, you're just starting to clear, or you're yet to beat the game, or you're just interested in like the theory crafting, there should be something in this video for you. We're just going to take a casual look at a few strong builds that I've beaten the game with recently, including the one that I just teased at the start of the video, so stick around for that one. And without further ado, let's dive right in. So the first thing to note about most of these runs is that they were on a relatively low heat run, 1 or 2 heat to begin with, and then by the end of the video I've got some that are about 4 or 5. But these builds should work across the spectrum really. This first build in particular is a very powerful one. Goes by the popularized name of the Hunting Blades build. So named because it relies on a duo boon called Hunting Blades between Artemis and Ares. And that's what you're looking to build towards. It basically makes the blade rifts incredible. Like, they home in on enemies rather than just bouncing around randomly, so you get a much greater damage output as soon as you get this boon. If you use it in conjunction with a lot of the cast-based boons that Artemis provides and Hermes, such as Flurry Cast, Burst Fire, and I can't remember the name of Artemis' legendary, but that will provide extra ammo to it, then you can do some real work with any cast-based build. But this is probably one of the strongest ones because of the strength of the duo boon that hunts down enemies. So as you can see, I'm just sort of spamming out these blade rifts, and they're doing quite a bit of damage. Part of the reason of that is that I'm using them after I throw Achilles' spear and rush towards it, and that gives me, I think with this particular run, I only had 125% damage bonus on it, but you can get an 150% damage bonus on your first 2 casts or attacks after throwing and rushing to the spear, like that. So that is a very useful weapon aspect to be using when you're going for a high damage cast build. Of course, it's not the only option. You've got a few other weapon aspects that do provide a damage bonus that can actually work out as being better than the Achilles spear, because the Achilles spear has the highest number increase. It's got 150%, nothing beats that, but it's only on the first 2 casts. So you've got other options like the Hera aspect on the bow, or you have the Eris aspect on the railgun, which if you stand in your own explosion of your special, you gain, I think it maxes out at something like 60% extra damage for 8 seconds, but that's across your entire arsenal, so that can work wonders. But anyway, that's enough of the Hunting Blades build. We're going to move on to another one. And I'm not really sure what to call this one. It's a crazy mix of things. Initially, I was using Poseidon's Tempest Flourish to clear rooms, which is very effective. As you can see, there's a lot of Poseidon boons here. But they don't really come in very handy against Hades. He doesn't get affected by knockback, and so the effects don't trigger. I made it work with a combination of Flurry Slash and Divine Strike. So the fact that my constantly attacking sword is deflecting gives me enough tankability to just literally stand right at Hades' face and chop him to pieces continually. Applying weak whenever I can as well with the special, just to make sure that I have a bit more safety, and he goes down really quickly in this one. I think of this build as a testament to the creativity that you can have in this game. I really didn't set out to have this build, but the Athena and Flurry Dash combination just worked out way too well. So now we're looking at a Chaos Shield build that worked out, definitely, although it wasn't perhaps as optimal as I'd have hoped. So this one I'm going to show a little bit of. This relies on triggering Doom, applying Doom, but Doom doesn't stack as effectively as some other moves do, and with Chaos Shield you really want to be maximising the fact that you're throwing out 4 or 5 shields. In this run it was 4, later on I upgraded, and we're going to see now one where I had 5 shields being thrown out, and instead of going with Doom, I decided to use Zeus's special, the Thunder Flourish, and this worked out way better. Clearing rooms was quicker, the immediate effect of the damage was much more apparent, and Zeus has some of the best tier 2 and tier 3 boons once you build into his moveset really well. The way that this worked was I was alternating my charges, which applied weak, and obviously the Heartbreak Strike gives you quite a hefty percentage increase on that attack as well, so that's quite good. and then following it up, of course, with the special that throws 5 shields. So one thing that was key to the way that this worked was the fact that I'd be triggering privilege status quite frequently, and immediately on any target that I hit with my special. So the weak would apply, and then I'd throw the shield, and that would apply jolted. And privilege status is a fantastic thing that you should always be trying to build towards, basically. You want that extra 50% damage, so you want to make sure that you're applying 2 status effects to your enemies as often as possible, especially against Hades. One tip that I have for using the shield in this particular build, this was my most recent run, and I figured out the aspect slightly better. The way that the throw works, you've got to think of it as almost another melee. So don't think of it as a ranged attack. If you're targeting a particular enemy, you want to be right in their face when you throw it, because it's more likely to hit with all 5 shields on them at once. And you can see some of the damage that I'm actually applying to Hades here when I do land all 5 shields at once. It's really impressive. So that's the chaos aspect, and I feel like Zeus is one of the most synergistic with this particular weapon. One added detail about this build is that by the end of the run, by about 6, I started building into Athena because I wanted to trigger exposed. Because I noticed that a lot of the returning shields were hitting enemies in the back, and I thought against Hades this would be an incredible thing to have. And it worked out really well. I got deflect dash, and it meant that whenever I got in close, I was triggering exposed and dealing extra damage on the returning shields, so that was cool. The Chaos Shield is just a really fun weapon for making builds. I've tried it with Dionysus and with Ares, but so far Zeus has been the most powerful one, just because those tier 3 and tier 2 boons are just incredibly powerful. So this is a very different kind of build, using the bow, specifically the Hera aspect on the bow, which is the one that allows you to load your casts into your attack shots. And quite often this aspect is used to make a cast build, but right here I'm just using it as a means of applying 2 status effects at once. So I've got Doom on my attack, and that's going to be where the majority of my damage output is coming from. And I have Heartbreak Flourish on the special, and Heartbreak Shatter Shot on the cast. So those are my 2 sources of applying. The special is really just for applying to big groups of enemies where I can't single shot, because this is basically a single shot, single target build. Target prioritization was a key part of this build, going through all of the layers of hell. And when it came to Hades, it was actually relatively easy because I had one main target to prioritize the whole time. This was also quite a good build in that I didn't have to get too many boons in order to make it work. Having Twin Shot and Flurry Shot definitely made a big difference with this bow build. Being able to put out twice the amount of damage with Twin Shot and just continuously fire Doom from a safe range was a very important thing for this build to work. The main thing that made this build work though was the application of both Weak and Doom at the same time, and because Doom triggers after a delay, it meant that privilege status was active when Doom struck, so that gave it a massive damage bonus, which was great. And there was very little else to it besides collecting a few defensive abilities. Basically, Tidal Dash allowed me to run into an area and immediately disperse any enemies that were nearby, so that was especially important for a ranged build. I would recommend using Tidal Dash for any build where you're trying to keep your enemies at bay, with either the spear ranged attack, or with the bow, or perhaps the railgun. Tidal Dash is definitely a really useful kind of GTFO move. And then filling up on lots of damage mitigation, whether it be using Broken Spear Point for the last 2 layers of hell, which I always do, or just getting Athena boons and a couple of Hermes boons to evade and to deflect things. Those all really helped with this kind of keep your distance and poke them to death build. But now we come to the final build of the video, and this is the one that I teased in the beginning that put up so much damage at the very end of this boss fight. This is pretty much a full Dionysus plus everything you could possibly want to synergize with each other build, using the Eris aspect of the railgun. The centerpiece here is a heroic level 4 Tipsy Shot. I get 12 casts of it with fully loaded Burst Shot, Flurry Shot, it all just comes together. Eris boosting damage for 8 seconds, and this isn't even a maxed out Eris aspect railgun. I boosted my damage for 8 seconds by 36%. You get this up to level 5, it's boosting it by 60%, so this isn't even as good as it could possibly be, but the build itself, I think, is probably I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's like the most well-optimized build I've ever had, at least, and probably one of the best I've seen. Low tolerance in there as well, just increasing the poison stacks, so there's a massive poison aspect to this build that worked incredibly well. But really the fat damage comes from these festive fogs. There's even more to it. There's the crit chance that I got from pressure points as 5% on top of it. There's the fact that I chose a rocket bomb for some reason early on, which worked out really well because it meant that I was increasing my damage instantly by just hitting a wall with my special, rather than like, you know, lobbing a rocket and then diving into it. Or if I'm like right up against an enemy, I can shoot them. Support fire triggering every time I hit an enemy, and that happens a lot when you've got the railgun and you're firing constantly. Dionysus Aid, which I pop, I think, at this point. Yep, that's already gone off. So just tons of damage constantly. And this run didn't go particularly well. You can see I've already lost 2 Death Defiances, but it was just amazing when this final few hits happened and I finally managed to chain everything together, stack all of the damage possible against Hades and get him down. So that was a really satisfying one. But yeah, anyway, that's going to be it for my first Hades video. I hope you've enjoyed me blathering on at you for 10 minutes straight, but thank you very much for watching. I occasionally stream Hades on Twitch, so let me know if you'd be interested in watching those, or just head over to my Twitch channel. It will be linked in the description. Let me know if you've had any better builds that you've come across, or made, or won with. Just leave a comment down below, and yeah, I'll see you again next time.